Okay, so, the way that Java does, I don't want that. Its user interfaces via something called Swing.
Professor Buster, you're having to project up there.
I mean, you can't see my computer? There we go. Thank you. Yes. As you have probably realized by now, sometimes I just need a bit of a nudge, so never hesitate to kind of, hey. Okay, so actually I think there was one little item from yesterday I need to pick up on, but Tay, I want to just talk about two things in Swing. One is a text area, which is where, as you might guess, you put text, and it's actually quite robust. We've seen text as displayed in buttons. We've seen them in JLabels, but those are all kind of relatively small things. A JText area is for just displaying a whole bunch of text. It can be editable or non-editable, so those are two options that you can set programmatically. And just out of the box, it does provide some basic text operations that you don't have to explicitly do yourself, like you can select text, you can copy, you can paste, you can cut, you can cut and paste if editable. And we'll see an example of that. And then the other thing is that in interacting with the file system, what most of you are probably used to when running an application is that if you want to say open a file, you click something and then a little dialog pops up where you navigate to the file that you want. You select the file and you say okay, or you double click it, however that works. And then the file gets open. So whether it's like an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document or a PowerPoint presentation or anything else that's on your computer that an application can open up, that's what you're used to. Up till now, we've been doing everything on the command line, so you have to kind of tell it where things are. And as you've probably discovered, that's a bit fragile. Just really easy to fat finger when you're typing in the full path of wherever it is. Wouldn't it be much better if you could just kind of navigate to it the way you're used to? And the answer is, of course, you can. Now, to provide that functionality, either open, and then the other thing is that sometimes you want to save a file. So if you create, say, a new PowerPoint presentation and you go to save it, it brings up another one of these little file chooser things, and you navigate to where you want it, and you type the name that you're saving it, and that's that. Now, the subtleties involved in doing that operation, there's a lot that goes on that you may not be completely aware of unless you sort of think of it. So, for example, if you go to open a file, you might change your mind and hit cancel instead. Okay, so the implication of that is that your application can't assume that if you've opened up one of these little dialogues, it can't assume that you've actually selected anything because you may have just said never mind. Now, if you have, then you want to say, okay, what do you got? And what the file chooser does, as we'll see, it will give you a file instance. Remember, there's a difference between the string that says this is where the file is, the path, and the file instance that was had a lot more stuff. And the file chooser actually gives you a file object. That's one of the nice things. Conversely, if you're saving a file, There's also the option that, you know, or the possibility that you go to save the file and you say, well, never mind. So you can't, again, the program can't assume if I've gone to save a file that there's actually something there, because there may not be if the user says cancel. Now, even given that, the file chooser doesn't know what you want to do with that file. If you're say you're saving a file, it has no idea what you want to put there. And so you need to explicitly do that. And in fact, if I go to save a file, what the file chooser does is it gives me a file object. But if you remember, we talked about how a file object may or may not refer to an actual file on the file system. In other words, that may or may not exist for precisely this reason. That if I'm going to create a file for the first time and I go to save something there, then I need that file object first before it actually exists. Then I need to kind of create it. So that needs to be explicitly done. In other words, we need to do that programmatically. The file chooser is not going to do that for us.